Uh, Let me just check. Okay, it looks like I am now live. Welcome to Date Night with Martina. And tonight I'm going to be looking at the topic of being love. And to make a distinction around that, it's being love rather than trying to get love from somebody else. I think there's a lot of conditioning in our world that drives us to think that love comes from somewhere else, that love comes from somebody or something else, and that there's some kind of magic to it. But my experience is that learning to really be love is the most sustainable, nourishing, and fulfilling expression of love. So, for those who are listening who are not familiar with me or my work, I've been working in the space of love, intimacy, and relationships for the last 15 years, supporting men and women who are both single and in relationships to transform their lives, to step into knowing how to open their hearts, to express their love, to be connected to the power of sexual energy through their body, and to learn how to enhance the quality of their relationships. And I offer this through sessions, workshops, retreats, and training. I'm currently in the midst of quite a massive transition, actually, rebranding from tantricblossoming.com over to martinahughes.com. The new Martina Hughes website is live. It has been for 3 years, but we're transferring the content, or a lot of the content, from Tantric Blossoming over and creating some new things over there. So it feels like a big transition energy alive at the moment. So welcome to the people joining me. I love feeling the community and the connection cultivated through this space. So if you're at home watching, please do say hello. Let me know how you're feeling tonight. Let me know what's present in your body or in your emotional state right now. It's still a little bit of an unusual medium, this space to be presenting and sharing into, because in a certain way it's a one-way sharing, apart from your comments. So I do appreciate hearing from you and knowing what's alive for you. Hello, Gail. Lovely to have you here, Gail. So yeah, let's go into a meditation. So that will give people an opportunity to connect with their body and perhaps even tune in to what they're feeling. So placing one hand on your heart, one hand on the lower belly, and taking some deep breaths. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you take deep breaths, sinking into your body, having a sense of letting go, relaxing through the pelvic floor, through the buttocks, through the genitals, through the legs and the feet, letting your lower body relax and open. Breathing into the belly, into the back. Again, letting your body relax and open. Belly soft, back soft, letting yourself lean against the back of your chair or wherever you're sitting, letting yourself feel that external support, letting yourself rest into this moment, feeling the structure of your back, the spine, the ribs, the solidity of support that's available. Breathing into the upper back, the chest, the shoulders, the breasts, the heart and the lungs. Letting this whole area relax and open. Relax and open. Breathing down into your arms, into your hands. Letting your arms relax, letting your hands relax. Letting your body open. What if there's nothing for you to struggle, to hold on to take care of, but just to be present with your body in this moment, present with your breath, present with the way energy moves through your body. Breathing into your neck, into your head, into your face. Recognizing the breath, the energy, the sensations that move through you. Feeling the beat of your heart, feeling the pulse of life that moves through you in each and every moment. No matter how subtle it feels or how big it feels, tuning in to that pulse of light, that pulse of love that is constantly moving through you. Whether you notice it or you don't notice it, it's always there. Release your hands, release the practice, release your breath, and then coming back to the Facebook Live space, letting me know how you feel after that short practice. Karen says, feeling exhausted, long walk this evening, lovely. It's quite a nice, or at least down here, it's quite a nice evening out there, not too cold. Jay says, hi Martina, thank you. Jonathan says, good evening Martina. Lovely to have you joining us. So if you've just done the practice, drop into the chat box how you experienced the practice, what you noticed in your body. I'm also curious about whether anybody's listened to our podcast yet. Rod and I just launched our podcast, All Things Love, Sex, Intimacy and Relationships. So far it's the two of us speaking with each other, but we also intend to have some other people that we interview and bring in different perspectives and different opinions, different ways of approaching love, sex, intimacy and relationships beyond the teachings that Rod and I offer. So there's a lot exciting in the podcast space that's going to emerge. Jay says, feels a bit more present. Karen says, lovely evening here too, feeling relaxed now. Jay says, can you post the link, please? I will post the link to the podcast as soon as I finish this session. You can look it up in Spotify or Google Podcasts, and hopefully it'll be up in iTunes soon as well. Gail says, I enjoyed feeling tingles all over my face. Really nice. I haven't started the latest one. I have started the latest one, haven't finished it as yet. Awesome. We have a new episode coming out tomorrow, which will be how to evoke love, which is actually, it ties in with tonight's topic around being love, except that the podcast was more from Rod's perspective, whereas of course tonight it's from my perspective, so it gives you an opportunity to hear what I say about being love, and then if you listen to the podcast episode that's being released tomorrow, you'll get to hear Rod's perspective on how to evoke more love. Karen's on episode 3 now. Lovely. Excellent. So in order to be love, in order to rest into being love, we need to know a little of what love feels like in our own body. And I think what often happens is that we equate love with all of the feelings that come with the beginning of a new relationship, all that kind of heightened excitement and buzzing energy of a new relationship. We often assume that that kind of heightened buzz is what love is. And so then as time goes on in a relationship, and we become more familiar, more comfortable, more relaxed, but then also possibly more attached to the other person, what can happen is that some of our aliveness, some of our yes for life starts to diminish. I know in past relationships for me, as I've become more attached to somebody else, I've become less authentic to me, less expressive of what's truly alive for Martina. But of course, in the process of being less authentic, less expressive, less alive, then there's less love moving through my body. And so what can happen when there's that, essentially the common thing to happen is that we become more attached, then we start shrinking because we don't want to upset or isolate or alienate the other person. So the more attached, the more we shrink. We become less of our authentic selves, less of our loving selves, less of our vibrant selves. And then in that process, in dulling and diminishing ourselves, then there's not as much love, there's not as much sensation and energy moving through the body. Now that love, that energy, that sensation, it's still there. It's still inside of you. It didn't go anywhere. The challenge is that a part of you has made the other person responsible for your feeling of love. And so what's important is to come back to recognize, to remember. It's like one of those ancient kind of rememberings. It's like that spiritual awareness or spiritual awakening of realizing that we are love. Love is not something that happens out there. Love is something that happens here. And even though the idea that we are love might sound a little light or fluffy or esoteric, When we know that we are love, then everything we're looking for is right here in our own body. Somebody else is not responsible for the activation of that feeling. That feeling can be evoked through sitting down, taking some breaths, connecting with pleasure, connecting with sensation and feeling, relaxing and going, oh, yeah, I'm love. That feeling can be activated through being grateful for our lives, grateful for the gifts that you have, grateful for the qualities that you have. Coming back to self and remembering that love starts here means that we walk into the world with a full cup. Often the way that people approach relationships is from a perspective of, I need to get love from you. I need you to love me, to validate me, to fill me up. But of course, any of that leads to enmeshment, codependency, and the kinds of conditions that are not conducive to a natural flow of love through the body. I know I had a significant journey around 6 years ago now, a very deep and powerful inquiry into what is love. And in the process of that inquiry into what is love, and this is going to sound kind of obvious and simple right now, but I was in the middle of a 6-day retreat and I'm writing in my journal and I was like, oh, love is not control. It's not hypervigilance. It's not anxiety or management or, love is allowing the expression of energy, sensation and feeling to move through my body without demanding or expecting validation or approval from anyone else. And what was so enlightening for me in that was that I realized I'd spent so much of my life trying to control, to manage, to be hyper vigilant, to try and get my needs met. But that whole process of trying to get my needs met, trying to control or manage others to get my needs met, that led to a whole lot of pain, heartbreak, suffering for me, and I'm sure for others. So yeah, that was very much a dead-end street for me, trying to get love from somebody else. When we approach relationships from the perspective of trying to get love from somebody else, we're walking around like beggars. I have nothing, give to me, give to me, give to me. And I have certainly done that. And so I'm not making that wrong. However, it's important to have compassion for that part of ourselves, compassion for the part of ourselves that tries to source love on the outside. And of course we try and source love on the outside. It's what's role modeled. It's what we've seen in our parents, in others around us. It's what we've commonly seen as the dialogue about relationships, like that idea of like, when he loves me, when she loves me. Or it's what we see in our movies, that it's like it's all about getting the love. But instead of getting love, it is so, so much more powerful to be love. How many others have struggled and met disappointment, pain and heartbreak in trying to get love from somebody else? Perhaps put a comment in the chat box if you've experienced the pain of trying to get love from somebody else. My little Hades is clearly sleeping and enjoying the Facebook Live space. Just a short note for any single men who are listening as well on this topic is that we have 3 spaces left for date night for singles coming up this Saturday at 5 p.m. So if there are any men who want to learn more about how you connect with women, how you create a loving relationship, if you want to have some conversations with single women, come along and join us for date night for singles this Saturday at 5 o'clock via Zoom link. So we have had people participating from all over the world and all over Australia, so it's not location specific. So the energy of trying to get love, as I said, it usually leads to heartbreak, disappointment, a whole lot of pain and suffering. And at the core of trying to get love, there's a belief that love is outside of us. It plays into a feeling of scarcity, that love is something that we get. Love is something out there. But when we recognize that love is inside of us and we really listen, we listen to who we are, we learn how to say yes to who we are, we learn how to allow our feelings and also to bring consciousness to our feelings, and also actively cultivating a self-care practice, then we become deeply rooted and grounded in ourselves as being love. But we need to, instead of listening to out there, it's like we need to listen in here, like, who am I? What do I feel? What beliefs and thoughts sit with those feelings? Is there clarity or consciousness that needs to be brought to the journey with our feelings? Because sometimes even our feelings can lead us astray if we don't have a process of bringing clarity and consciousness to our feelings. And then in that, actively having a self-care practice so that we're activating experiences of gentleness, of pleasure, of openness in our body. Gail says, I ended my failing marriage to get love from another man in an attempt to get love and feel love. Yeah, I can understand how that happens, Gail, and it sounds very, very painful from what you've described just there. Alison says, I felt like I couldn't be enough love for someone else, like I couldn't fulfill the needs they wanted from me, as then I wasn't able to give to myself. Yeah. And I think 2 people who are both trying to fill up each other's cups just become more and more depleted. Whereas if 2 people meet from a space of both being full within themselves, there's so much more expansion possible. There's so much more energy available. And so it really needs to start with that falling into ourselves. I know at the beginning of my relationship with Rod, I just had a drink of sparkling water, so it's a little bit burpy now. But yeah, at the beginning of my relationship with Rod, when we went through a little bit of a patch of uncertainty and him not being sure about the relationship, some of my old control and anxiety jumped up. And as that control and anxiety jumped up, the thing that would happen for me is that then my body becomes tense. Everything becomes rigid. There's no space for love to flow through me because I'm locked into the anxiety, the tension, the struggle. And so what I needed to recognize and because I've done this in prior relationships and could feel that familiar pattern of anxiety coming up. It's like, it's not about Rod. It's not about Rod. Love lives here. How do I fall back into the love that I am? How do I take time and space to reconnect with me rather than trying to manage or control what's going on for Rod? Because, of course, it's impossible to control what's going on for somebody else. And whilst ever I had my focus on him, my anxiety was increasing. But the more I brought that awareness back to me and really fell into myself, it's like, oh, now I can relax again. Now I can breathe easy again. Now I remember who I am. So there's this whole journey of remembering who we are. And part of the tendency is that we get attached to the other person. We leave ourselves behind in that desire to get it from them. But when we remember and we come back into ourselves, it's like, oh, it's relaxing here. And I've also come to learn how it's much more freeing when I recognize that love lives here. Then I don't have to be any particular way for Rod or for anybody else. That goes for family and friendships as well. When I come back to the love, the beauty, the richness, the power, the presence, the freedom, all the things I might want for my life, they begin here. But if I imagine that I need to connect with that through somebody else, then I set myself up for that scarcity, that hunger, and activate the anxiety in my body. Certainly coming back and remembering that love flows through each and every single one of us. I'm not unique. Nobody's unique in this. Love flows through every single one of us when we know how to feel it, how to listen to it. And love it's the pulse of life. It's that energy that sometimes expands, sometimes contracts, sometimes it's still, sometimes it's expansive. Sometimes love expresses in ways of beauty and admiration and shininess. And sometimes love expresses as fury and rage and sadness. And, so love can be the expression of all of those things moving through us, and not making anyone else responsible for how that love moves through us. Gail and Alison are sending their appreciation. Thank you so much, beautiful women, for your appreciation. Gail says so much freedom in that space. Definitely, definitely. And this is why, whether you're single or you're in a relationship, it all starts with relationship to self. Because if you're a single person watching this, cultivating love and your connection to love internally will absolutely transform the quality of potential partner that you attract into your life. If you're in a relationship and feeling like something is missing, reconnecting with love in your own body, flowing through you, will change the quality of connection with your partner. As one person changes in a relationship dynamic and comes home to that realization of, I am love. In that realization of, I am love, then what happens is the other person may respond to the feeling of love within us, or they may move further away. And that's their choice, because we can't control what anybody else does. But also, when we know that love inside of us, even if the other person moves away, we might feel sad, we might have some painful feelings, but we know that the sustainable source of love is in our own body. And knowing that that sustainable source of love is in your own body is incredibly empowering. It also leaves the other person free, so that instead of reaching out, grabbing, trying to get something from them. And we all know what it feels like when somebody is trying to get something from you, when somebody is trying to get love or get sex or get validation or get approval or get you to take care of them. It all just feels a bit sticky, right? It's like, ugh, that's not a good feeling. Maybe drop a comment if you have a word other than sticky to describe it. Like when somebody's trying to get something from you, how do you respond in your body? What happens? I notice even seeing myself in the camera here, it's like my body wants to go ugh and shake it off. It's like ugh. Yeah, that whole thing that just doesn't feel good and wanting to shake it off. But I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on how it feels for you. Gail says icky. Yes, icky's a good word. Icky's one of my other favourites. Icky and sticky. Alison says suffocating. Suffocating. Yes. Karen says yes, icky as well. Yeah, I love that you mentioned suffocating as well, Alison, because I know in past situations for me, and I know it's quite common for women, but it can also happen for men as well. When I was younger, there could be a tendency to obsess over somebody I was attracted to, or obsess over somebody that I was in a relationship with, and that quality of obsessing could become worse if they were a little more distant. What I didn't understand is that perhaps that person actually needed some space from me, but then with the distance, there was an energy that would rise in me. Together with that, with anxiety, there's an energy that would arise that would have me obsessing and thinking about that person all of the time. And then in that space of obsessing, thinking, wondering, what's he doing? What's he up to? I wonder why he hasn't messaged me yet. I wonder where he is. I wonder what's going on for him. Like in all of that kind of obsessing, what I've come to understand now is that the other person, even if they had a physical gap or physical distance from me, they never had the opportunity to get a full, clean psychic break from me. So they never had the opportunity to miss me, because whether they knew it or not, on some level, my energy was there on them. And so this is where and Gail says smothered, yeah, smothered, suffocating are good descriptions. So as well as allowing space in a relationship, because space is healthy, and we all, men and women, need healthy amounts of space to be our own person, to do our own thing. We also need to let our partners have psychic space for our psychic energy to not always be on the other person. Because if our psychic energy is always on the other person, they will be feeling it at some level. Alison says, wow, so I think perhaps she's having a little light bulb moment here. Feel free to expand on the wow, Alison. But yeah, that was very much a light bulb moment for me, recognizing that if my thoughts were obsessing about the person, that person was not getting a break from me. And so then it would cause that person to want to create more distance, more distance, more distance, which would often heighten my anxiety and have me wanting more and more and more. So that's a very vicious kind of cycle. So as well as being love and being connected to ourselves, we need to allow the person we're interested in or our partner, we need to allow them to have space as well. We also, not just physical space, we need to allow them to have energetic and psychic space. Gail says it feels very manipulative too. Absolutely, because there's that sense of not leaving the other person free to be themselves, to have a life, to have their own thoughts and feelings. And there's very much an anxiety style of attachment that sits underneath that kind of obsessing. And the more I've grown in myself of recognizing that I am love and I don't have to worry or obsess about the other person. They're free to love me, they're free to not love me. As long as I'm being love, then I'll be true to myself. I'll be true to the energies that move through my body in each and every moment. I'm just going to check my notes here to see what else I had written down. Yeah, I just wanted to also comment on, I already referenced the aspect of shrinking that happens when often we become attached or overly familiar with somebody, not being our full and true authentic self. The more we shrink, the more we go into like pleasing mode, trying to make it okay for the other person, we often become more accommodating. But then the more pleasing and accommodating we become, also the more needy we become. Because in not being true to ourselves, there's a sense of making the other person responsible for our needs, which then leads to neediness. It also often leads to destructive behaviors, wanting to blow the relationship up, wanting to attack the other person for not fulfilling our needs. And so coming into that space of like, I am love. And feeling the pulse of life that wants to move through us, that then means that we don't have to shrink. We can bring our messiness, our authenticity, our scary parts, our ugly parts, and allow space for all of that to be accepted. And then also the other person will also feel more loved. They will feel more accepted, because as love flows through my body, the mirror neurons in the other person's body mean that they feel more love flowing through them. If I know how to take care of me, I leave space for the other person to take care of themselves. But if I fall into any of the classic enmeshment patterns, which can look like, I'll take care of you if you take care of me, we're back in sticky, icky, manipulative territory again. And that leads to a lot of self-compromise. The more fully that we express our feelings, our power, who we are, we leave others free to choose us or not to choose us. And there are times where that may feel painful, may feel sad, but there's so much less anxiety. And that really needs to come from that place of pulling the energy tentacles in, taking deep breaths, letting ourselves relax, and really understanding that there is no scarcity. There's nothing to get on the outside. The more that we learn how to be love, the more love we attract from others. The more that I'm being love, the more I will receive love, whether that's from Rod, from friends, from family, from clients. When I'm really being love, the outside world keeps reflecting love back to me. But if I meet the world from a place of, I need you to validate me, I need you to let me know that it's okay to be me, I need you to love me. And I'm exaggerating it a bit, but those energies of needing love, needing validation, needing approval, they often run quite subtly in the background, needing somebody else to make it okay to express ourselves. Any of those themes place our energy outside of ourselves. They also lead to depletion and exhaustion. So pulling our energy tentacles in and learning to relax, to breathe, to really slow down and rest. And then to have gratitude for your love, to have gratitude for the pulse of life that wants to move through you, to have gratitude for whatever your connection to your body is on that day, to have gratitude for your awareness, your intellect, for your wisdom, for your beauty, for your fitness, your strength, your flexibility, your love, your passion, your compassion, whatever it is. Having gratitude for your internal qualities brings you alive and makes you shine. And whether you're single or in a relationship, you will attract so much more love into your life. And having that kind of awareness fills your cup up. And when you're full, there's no chance that you're going to be draining other people's resources. There's no chance that you're going to be energetically calling on them to support you, because you know how to take care of yourself and you know how to ask for support where you need it. Knowing how to take care of yourself doesn't mean being wholly self-sufficient. It means that you know who to ask for support. You know how to ask for support in a way that is empowering and not depleting. And you know what it is that you need to take care of yourself. Alison says she feels like she's experienced being on both sides of this. Yeah, beautiful, Alison. Helen says, I agree with expressing what you are feeling in the given moment. Yeah. And it can be hard. Like I've been, on this journey of like deep personal work for like 20 years. And I still have moments where I struggle to express myself in the moment. But some of what I do to support myself to be able to express in the moment is using a journal. And so the more I give myself space to just dump and clear my thoughts and clarify my process in the journal, the easier it is then to find my feelings and to find the words to express in the moment in a connection with somebody. And there'll be times when I still freeze and I can't find the words. And so that might look like even just having compassion and going, oh, I've frozen. I don't know how to express myself right now. I can't find the words I'm looking for right now. So yeah, finding even the space to acknowledge that I don't know how to express myself, that can be one way of expressing. So yeah, being love includes expressing what we're feeling. It includes being connected to our body. It includes tuning in to that pulse of life that moves through us. It also includes being gentle and compassionate for our own humanness. Oftentimes when we step into a self-awareness journey, we can become quite critical and have high expectations of ourselves to get it right and to be, politically correct in the personal development space. But having gentleness for ourselves is recognizing, oh, actually, yeah, I'm going to be compassionate with myself about this because this is a pattern that started early on. And it's going to take a little bit of patience and practice to transform this particular pattern. So, yeah, gentleness and compassion are essential components of being love. And when we can bring true compassion and true gentleness to ourselves, the quality of compassion and gentleness that we offer to others will also be deeper and richer. So Alison says, oh my God, this is what I needed tonight. So good. Beautiful to hear that, Alison. I'm glad it's supportive for you. I feel like I've shared quite a bit around being love, and if to give you a summary, I would say breathe, relax, be gentle, cultivate gratitude, and remember that you are love. Each and every single one of us is already love. And that is not esoteric, it's not woo-woo. It's an actual truth that love starts inside of us. So I think that's what I'd love to leave you with tonight. If there are any questions or final comments, please do drop them into the chat box. There was something, a couple of kind of practical things I wanted to share with you. My interview on the Shadow Side of the Feminine Summit, that comes out on the 28th. So if you haven't signed up for the Shadow Side of the Feminine Summit, I will post a link onto this thread, and I'll do a separate Facebook post about it again this evening, so you can check my interview on that when it comes out on the 28th of this month. And yeah, as I mentioned, there's a few spots left for single men for date night for singles coming up this Saturday. Jay says, beautiful sharing, thank you. Karen says, thank you. This was lovely to hear. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, it's been a delight to share with you. I hope that you take from this whatever it is you need, whatever it is that supports you to remember that you are love. Good night.